Hygiene factors are a key part of motivational maps. The phrase hygiene factors was coined by Ernst Berg, a famous researcher of motivation in the 60s. It's a bit of a strange name actually, because whenever I talk about hygiene factors to companies, they always think I'm talking about the washroom or something, and it's got this curious thing. But the washroom provides a really great example of what Ernst Berg meant by a hygiene factor. What he meant was there are things you come to work for that motivate you, but there are other things that they don't motivate you, but actually if they're not there or they're there badly, they demotivate you. So for example, nobody goes to work because of a spanking new washroom that's really clean and fresh and got lovely soap and everything and perfumes in it. Nobody comes to work for that reason. But if the washroom is filthy on an ongoing daily basis, it becomes a source of grievance and complaint, and ultimately it becomes a demotivator. So that concept, thinking to myself when I created the maps and I looked at what I was doing, became like a piece of dirt, a hygiene factor, in the oyster that I was going to create a pearl round. Because when I looked at, there were 9 motivators, all of them in us, and we had these amazing wants, which of course are strengths. When we really desire, all things in the world that are good really come from desire. We want to desire things, and if we don't desire things, we become automatons, we become robots. So desire is a really good thing in us. We want to desire things. So these motivators are wants, they're desires. So these, the stronger they are, of course, the more we get focused on what we really want to do. So that sounds great, but what happens at the other end of the spectrum? If, for example, for myself, creators number 1 and experts number 2, and I want to make a difference number 3, but what about my number 9 motivator? And actually the ones in the middle as well. What about those? And one of the things about the maps, which one has to keep on going on about again and again to people, is that the maps are always contextual. So there is no good or bad map per se, there is only a context in which it operates. So let's take me as a case in point. I think my lowest motivator has been consistently my lowest motivator for 20 years, 30, 20, 25 years, before even I invented the maps, because it keeps coming up. So although my top 3 have changed, my lowest one seems to remain the same. I'm not trying to fix it, it just seems to be what it is. And I know myself, I hate it. So what is my lowest motivator? My lowest motivator is the director motivator. In other words, I do not want to manage people, I do not want to control people and resources, but I'm an ex-senior manager. And as soon as I saw that, I realised it explained that although I had the skill set to be a very effective senior manager in my old career, my old job, and I was good at it, I had all these qualifications, I'd done all this stuff, it never satisfied me. It was always irksome. In fact, I remember distinctly thinking that, for Christ's sake, why can't you go away and solve the problem yourself? That's what I would do. Why are you asking me what to do? I could never be bothered to manage people. I did, but it was always something that I found. So that's a hygiene factor. If I'm going to go into management, because I'm going to go into management because I want the money, because I want the recognition, that's fine, but I've got to take on board actually doing the work of managing. But director is my lowest motivator, so that's going to trip me up. So effectively, the hygiene factors represent a sort of SWOT analysis of the motivational map. Our strengths are the motivators which propel us to get what we want, but our weaknesses, which we may not know are our weaknesses or what we don't want, are at the other end. And it's not just the lowest one, it's not just number 9. It can be any of them. Obviously the lower it is, the more problematic it is. But I had a company in Swindon, so this is not just about me, a company that if you work in Swindon area you would know. It employed something like 50 people. It had 4 directors of the company. They all did a motivational map. Not one person in 50 people had director motivator in their top 3. When I addressed the 50 of them and said, they had searcher, they had creator, I said, do you have a lot of great ideas here? Are you really committed to what you're doing? And they all, yeah. And do you find nothing, a lot happens? Yeah, how did you know that? Do you find it's all a bit of a mess, the management? Yeah. They had qualifications in management, but nobody wanted to, out of 50 people, nobody wanted to be a manager. Now that's a hygiene factor. So what we as consultants or coaches have to do is we have to say to the people who are the managers, look, you don't really want to do this, so what are we going to do about it? And there's a variety of things we can suggest. We can suggest delegation skills, coaching in delegation skills, for example. We can suggest recruitment and looking at the new intake that are coming in, that all things being equal, we want people who've got that in their profile. We can suggest a number of things, but it's not just that. It's not just that one motivator. Any of the 9 can become a hygiene factor. Take the searcher, which most coaches and consultants have got in their top 3. I've got it in my top 3. That's the need to make a difference. That is the motivator that is the most customer focused. Now imagine you're dealing with staff working in customer facing situations and they've got searcher as their lowest motivator, or down there at the bottom with a very low score. That is a hygiene factor. That is going to be a problem because they've got no wanting to serve the customer. They know they need to do it. They know that's their job, but they don't want to do it. Faced with what we want to do and what we sort of need to do as part of our job spec, we always default to what we want to do. We find little excuses why we're busying ourselves with what we want to do and letting the real thing we should be doing go by default. So this has got massive implications for business.